you guys asked me to watch How Much Should a One Card Combo Do by Joshua Schmidt. So as always, we're gonna leech content. Make sure you give him credit where it's due. Like and subscribe. Let's see what Josh has to say. I feel like Josh has been beating the same drum for a while now, though, where he's not a fan of the one card combos, which I can get. Like, I'm not a fan of Snake Eye Ash. The Yubel card's kind of crazy as well. But so I think the point here he's trying to make, and I haven't watched it, but this is just like a guess based on the thumbnail, which was like different one card combos. Is the one card combos have kind of existed, like Tour Guide into Dante is a one card combo if considering Dante the payoff, and then search Tour Guide again. It is, even if it's small, a one card play. So at what scale does it become inappropriate? But power creep exists. Where do we kind of lose it, or what needs to change? So I guess that's going to be kind of the talking points here, and I'll see what he has to say, and maybe if I have any disagreements, we'll go over it.
That's been discussed a lot in recent years. It just feels like there's a general direction in Yu-Gi-Oh towards more one card combos, right? My stance used to be like powerful one card combos just shouldn't be a thing. That doesn't feel like a modern sort of opinion anymore at this point, because it's impossible to ignore the existence of one card combos or to like hope on the fact that one card combos are never going to be a thing again. At this point in time, even the rogue decks are doing like one card combos, right? When I'm thinking OG,
like Memento has one card combos, Raid Raptors one card combos. It's different levels of one card combos. Like, yeah, Alistair is a one card combo, but its combo is tame in comparison.
One card combos. Can anyone think of an older or more OG one card combo than like Alistair? Oh yeah, Zodiacs is a good point.
About to say Zodiacs.
It never felt like those kind of cards were ruining the game. I mean, Zodiac was a dominant deck, but it was still a good format. Alistair never completely took over. So I feel like there is a window of opportunity in design space where you can make these cards, you can make one card combos, but they don't feel overly oppressive. Maybe there's a line at which one card combos are fine to exist, at which they don't ruin the game or they don't feel like they're ruining the game. I just want to maybe talk.
I think it's largely dependent. So I mean, the actual one card combo itself matters, like the starter, but the biggest thing for me that I think matters the most is the end pieces in it. And as we get more generic cards and powerful boss monsters, the end pieces get more powerful. That's the part I probably have more problem with. I mean, obviously a lot of that's enabled by more powerful extenders and combo pieces, right? Like Appaloosa wasn't as nearly good on release as it is now because the combo pieces have gotten better. Alistair was not a one card combo when it came out. Right, you needed to link monsters, right?
About where that line is, right? Because I definitely draw the line somewhere before Snake Eye Ash. No matter where the line is, Snake Eye Ash is past that line. I feel like we passed the line for me personally with Lokai and Circular, which has become a complete meme at this point, but I want to keep it like a more serious discussion. That's for me personally where
it's so funny he has to specify this because his chat probably gives him infinite shit over that.
Kind of past the line. Those were the kind of ones where I felt like it was frustrating that if my opponent started with that one card, they did too much. And of course, Circular looks
and as much as he gives shit about, we give him shit about this, he is right. Like, those cards are kind of ridiculous.
Tame in comparison to something like Snake Eye Ash these days. I understand that, but like for me personally, even what Mathmech does, the fact that this deck just either sets up what it sets up or kills me with one card, I think that's past the line. Marincess, I think, is a good example for this. One of the main selling points of playing Marincess, first of all, your deck is relatively consistent because if you can play a lot of one card starters, you don't need to draw crazy combinations of cards. All you need to do is see one of your starters, right? And it also didn't require you to build your deck in such a way that you would plan to see like 3 or 4 engine cards, right? You can easily afford to draw 3 hand traps in a deck like Marincess. Why does it feel fine to play against Marincess, but it doesn't feel fine to play against Snake Eye in that regard? Like, what's the difference? I think it's relatively easy, at least for me. The difference is that one Marincess card does not win the game on its own, right? It's the power level, right? It's the ceiling of that one card. The Melodious deck for me was a good example because that deck had like room for like 15 non-engine or something, and it's relatively self-contained. That's another thing. I am a big fan when one card combos lock you into your own archetype
I'm
or
the
your
same,
typing or whatever.
It stops those generic bullshit cards that we had a problem with, like Apo and such, like the things I was bringing up before. Melodious might be a little too strong. I think it depends on the format, but either way it's mostly fine. Etoile is a really good card, and Aria is kind of ridiculous, but it is a level of vulnerability that means it's easier to counter. Yeah, it's not the scariest deck in the world. The Melodious is probably okay though. Flexibility of extenders. I don't mind flexibility of extenders. Because if decks don't have extenders, then Yu-Gi-Oh is boring. The deck becomes unplayable, or if it is playable, it's because it's so powerful. You just slam in non-engine, and then the second it resolves, you win, right? Like, I think complicated playthroughs using extenders is important. Extenders is not something I have a problem with at all. I think it's not a bad thing.
This is not a guarantee that it's fair, though. I just want to say that. It still depends on the context of what you're locked into and what kind of options that leaves you with. Being locked into plants is cool and all, but if you have all the
extenders should be what they are, extenders, but they're also starters at the moment. I don't mind that as much. I really don't have a problem with this. These are not something that I have a crazy problem with. I hate when decks are very rigid in their terms and you can't be creative with how you play. I don't think Bonfire turning into Ash or Poplar is a bad thing. The cards are just too powerful, but it being able to be either or is a good thing, not a bad thing in my opinion. Because it means you can build your deck with engine and not feel bad when you draw awkward ratios of too much engine or too much non-engine, and you can be creative with how you play out your combo. That's fine. The problem is the power of the boss monsters. Flamebirds is fucking ridiculous. If Flamebirds didn't exist, the Snake Eye cards would be cool. And yes, you could have you'd have a good way to play through Disruption. The payoff wouldn't be as much, so it also wouldn't be as threatening to the point where you have to use your interrupts early on Snake Eyes. Thus meaning that a Bonfire wouldn't be as crucial because you could just hold your interrupts for later to hit their boss monsters. Hitting Flamebird is so crazy because Flamebird is broken on field and in the graveyard. You need to stop it twice. So either way, the problem is versus Snake Eye, you have to stop it twice there. And then if the problem is going second versus the deck, Flamebird contributes to such a broken end field that you have a whole problem. But I don't think hitting consistency is a good strategy. And Josh, I'm almost certain, shares the same sentiment where you don't want to hit consistency in the deck. And that is basically what you're doing by making your classifications for types like rigid, where saying cards can't be both extenders or starters. I don't have a problem with that. That's where Terratop is cool, right? Terratop is a starter and extender, right? That's awesome. It needs to be contained in power level to not be like ridiculous to the point where the games are decided whether you draw it or not. Part of the issue with Maxi is where it's so much more powerful than the rest of the cards in your deck that it can be swingy, but that's all like more card design, like mumbo jumbo.
Interrupts in the world available in the plant cards, then why does it matter? If you're locked into gimmick puppets, but you still have all the tools to FTK, then why does the lock matter? I don't think that's the best argument, but it is part. Restrictions are...
It's part, but I mean, it plays into the problem, again, I talked about, right? It's the threat, the actual threats and end pieces that are involved there. And with gimmick puppets, it's the FTK, right? So that's the problem, right? If puppets had like real interrupts, so if they ended on like search the trap that's a Snatch Steal and the pop on summon, and maybe you give them one of the Rinket that does something as well, but you don't have the FTK stuff, that'd be a real deck that is actually like cool. It'd be very good. The field spell's broken, but it wouldn't be like the nuts thing it is now.
Are healthy, right? Like in the case of Marincess, for example, the restrictions are very well done, because if you're locked into water, you're kind of limited to what you can end on. With good hands, you have the option to like code. With some other hands, you have the option to go for like a Zelantis board wipe. But for the most part, I feel like in Marincess, you have a healthy lock. And the same is true, in my opinion, for Melodious, because when you're locked in Melodious, you have still powerful options, but you lose a lot of crazy things you could otherwise do, right? Like you're limited to basically ending on Etoile, Huberta, and like Aria for protection. Those are the only things that really do anything on your opponent's turn when you're playing Melodious. Everything else doesn't really provide anything. Right? And so I think those are good examples of something that, you know, works. Another good example that people have mentioned in chat that I absolutely agree with is Centurion if Calamity is banned.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we have that
Caveat.
in Master Duel at the moment, and it's a 100% fine deck to exist. Honestly, fun to play against, because if my opponent normal summons a Primera in Master Duel, even
You don't scream. You don't scream when your opponent summons Centurion, right? Like, you don't want to be frustrated when you look at a hand of no hand traps and see your opponent summon their one card starter, right? That card can play, that's fine. But if I have to like slam the table because now I'm going to FTK'd, that's obviously a step too far. Centurion, I think is cool. I mean, it's very good, right? Because you get the flow of resources going, you get several, you get like an interrupt or two, and it's good, but it's not like insane. It reminds you of Sword Soul. It is kind of similar to Sword Soul, yeah. Where if you already drew some pieces, then you can search the trap and you can be flexible. The cards are good. There's no doubt about it, but it's not FTKing you like with Calamity. But it's reliant on the end pieces, right? Like Blazar is a fantastic card. Fantastic card. Very, very powerful. But it's not like gonna ruin the game the same way Calamity is. It's the end pieces that make a difference.
I have no interaction in my hand. Their deck has Grind Game, their deck has an Omni Negate. but their deck will not lock me out of the game. Their deck will not overload me on interaction. It's a completely normal game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that's roughly where my personal line is, right? My personal line is something around Centurion without Calamity. I think Voiceless is a little bit better than Centurion in that regard. Like what one low does. Is it more powerful? It's pretty similar, right? It's an Omni Negate with follow-up, but like slightly better, because I feel like Voiceless plays through hand traps better, but that's another thing.
The untargetable
that's
thing.
Roughly where my line is. If Voiceless is over the line, then not much. They both end on an Omni, so that's bad. I agree. Omnis are not the best form of interaction. At the same time, you do have to put it into context. If the Omni is quote unquote the only thing they do, like in the case of Centurion and Master Duel, it's like, okay. But if your deck spams Apo, Flamberge,
yeah, it's like Apo
Grave,
back with an
plus
Omni is kind of ridiculous.
More problematic. I think it's fair to give these decks some context. I personally don't believe.
Like, I think Omni, as long as it's one of the, it's either the only or one of two interrupts, it starts to be manageable. When there's like 3 interrupts, including an Omni, then it gets kind of crazy, right? Because then they're protected from baits so frequently.
One card combos should not exist at all. And I am basing that off of the fact that I don't hate Centurion. I don't hate Marincess. I don't hate Voiceless. I don't hate Melodious. Those are all decks that I think are completely fine to exist. And to me, that means one card combos have a space in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I find them acceptable. Unless it's circular. See, you're always making fun of me for that as if that's unreasonable. I think there's a difference between my opponent normal summoning Primera in Master Duel and my opponent using circular in Master Duel. Let's say my opponent hand traps me and I have to pass. Primera does not.
I think part of the problem with circular is that hand traps kind of fucking suck against it. And that's kind of why it's a bit weird. Unless it's Bistrals. His argument is that bad decks are good and good decks are bad. I mean, the argument's power level. If you want to simplify his argument to that, then sure, but that's, I mean, he's just saying that he think the power level's too high. Circular is probably the most powerful starter we have had in the game as an individual card. I mean, it's within context of its own deck, right? There's other things, right, that are probably more powerful. In terms of what the things that one card can do, you've seen in my one card combo videos how crazy the game can get. The difference in 2 negates for 3 negates is massive. Yeah, exactly. That's why I said 2 or less. If you're going for Omnis, it needs to be like it. Yeah, but circular's the cost. Yep, that's part of what makes it so hard to interrupt. Can't dash it. Can't dash it. Can't Veiler it. Can't imperm it. Can't mourner it. And the thing is, even if you have Bestial into it, then it becomes easy to play through, right? The thing is, like, I don't mind when one card starters can be played through, but I don't like when they only have a couple hand traps that even work on it, and then those ones are able to play through. Like, if Veiler, imperm, and mourner were all viable like things on there, then it'd be a little different. I don't know. Circular is a really good card. Like, I don't blame him for having this opinion. I don't think his opinion is that crazy. I mean, I'll shit on Circular the same way he does. He definitely has more of a disdain than I do, but I also don't think it's unfounded.
Circular, you're dead. When I go second in Master Duel, my opponent normal summons Primera. That's 1 Omni Negate. 1. My opponent activates Circular. I don't even know what the current standard is, but it's a super factorial for Hand Rip, Send from Field, Omni Negate, Terahertz for a Spell Trap Negate, Heat Soul to draw 2 cards. It's not the same. This whole meme that we're riding for a year or two now, it does come from my genuine concern with one card combos that I felt like got out of hand around that time. As funny as you might think you are when you say like, oh, you criticize MathMech, but you think Primera is okay. I want
You can tell this has been a problem in his stream for so long. Oh, poor guy.
I think there's a difference. I think it's important that one card combos can be stopped and
so you guys are better, right? We don't troll chat. We don't troll me the same way. I don't know what you would even troll me with. I guess bigger streamer usually get more colorful personalities in the chat. So when I've had bigger streams, actually when I've done streams with larger audiences like we do at for watch parties, I can get kind of tilted by seeing some of the things that I want to see. People that recommend cheating, like literally, oh my god. Yeah, before I get triggered, I'm gonna continue. I look at worse as you go along. Yeah, sure. In from Column of Worlds, that's hilarious though. I know I fucked up. I'm not hiding that. Like if I'm like ever looking that as I'm playing along, right? Because it's fun for both of us. But like you can say the swapping deck things, but I'm just chilling.
Interacted with if you draw certain hand traps. I think that's another issue with specifically Snake Eye. Makes it frustrating to play against is because the deck has pretty much no clear choke points. Because every single point.
It's funny how Circular has gotten Power Cup and Master Duel. So a big difference is in the TCG, no hand traps are effective as Circular. In masterduel, guess which hand trap is effective versus circular? Max C. It does legitimately hold back Mathmech to a fair degree. But the deck is somewhat playable. Like, the deck is a playable deck, and I would not say it's that bad. But yes, for Snake Eye Ash is better than circular. Like, sure.
Where you interact with them, they can just replace it by drawing any of their extenders. This is problematic because it's basically also making those decks unstoppable. And my take is that one card combos should be relatively easy to stop because those decks have a lot of room for non-engine. When you play against those decks, or when you play one of those decks, I think what you should sign up for is if you get stopped, you have to stop them with your non-engine and try again next turn. I don't think it's reasonable that you can just ignore their hand traps, keep playing, and then just back up your board with hand traps. Is Branded Fusion okay? I think Branded Fusion is hard to compare this to.
It's not okay. By the way, it's not.
Some aspects.
Branded Fusion is fucked. Branded Fusion is way too strong, I think.
Branded Fusion is okay, but for other reasons. I don't hate Branded. I just hate how so much of that deck is condensed in that one card. Choke points are good, but I don't believe that they should make you build a deck around one card, and then if that one card gets stopped, your deck basically does nothing unless you have a super specific combination of cards to still play. You played Branded yesterday and you still feel like that? No, I like Branded, especially if they banned Albion. I think Branded is cool, and I think Branded is not easily comparable to decks like Snake Eye, Centurion, Marincess. I think they're different because you can say whatever you want about Branded. At least Branded cannot ignore your hand traps, right? If Branded gets hand trapped on Branded Fusion like Ashed or something, that deck has to...
He hasn't been Branded Lost it enough. Testing versus Branded, when they open up Lost Branded Fusion, I don't have Ash in my hand. You're just like, well, I can't do anything. And then you just get fucking destroyed.
Significantly change how it plays. And its game plan in the TCG at the moment, at least to my understanding, is like, if I get Ashed on Branded Fusion, I try my hardest to somehow piece together a puppet lock to not get killed. Which it can, you know, there are ways to play around Ash with Branded, I'm aware, but it's not as easy and not trivial. There's no one card combo to play around Ash, right? So in
you can Ash under Lost. I said if you don't have Ash, without Ash. I know you can Ash with Lost. I'm saying a hand without Ash. So if you have Valor Imperm and they have Lost, oh no, you guys are just trying to troll me. I'm gonna ignore you guys.
In some ways, I think it's okay that Branded Fusion is such a big choke point. It feels bad when you play against Branded and you don't have Ash and the deck feels like unstoppable, right? That's also not a great feeling. But it is good that there is counterplay to that card. Does that mean Meow Meow Mew can come back? In today's environment, it could probably come back. Yeah, and this is another thing with card design that you need to be aware of. Sometimes the cards are just ahead of their time. I think if Prank Hits came out now with Meow Mew, people would not complain about it. I definitely think they have crossed the line with some one-card combos like Nightmare Throne, Snake Eye Ash. They need to be careful, basically, with the one-card combos that they give us, I think. What about Ponix?
The problem with Yubel is fucking Phantom. Phantom is just, like, crazy.
Fire King is fine, disregarding the Snake Eye cards in it. Vakaushi, yeah, see, this is the weird part. The confusing part about the TCG for me at the moment is like Vakaushi, they hit pretty much immediately because it feels like they realized we didn't like this. Like this was something that Snake came out and got slaughtered 2 weeks later, which everyone liked. I think the difference between Vakaushi and Snake Eyes is that Vakaushi was not part of the year or two long lore archetype that OCG has decided to make incredibly powerful. Vakaushi was legacy support, one-time thing that came out, right? I think that's why Vakaushi was handled this way and Snake Eyes is
I never thought about that way, but yeah, that makes sense.
And that's kind of sad because with Vakaushi, we realized the good thing for the game was to not let this happen, but for Snake Eyes, we're not doing that for other reasons. Thinking about the fact that Tier and Cash were also main lore, yeah, they've been meta for a long time.
Yeah,
can we agree banning around sales instead of balance is bad for the game? I mean, yes, we agree, but unfortunately, the reality we live in is that both things are an important factor for them. Selling
you
Yu-Gi-Oh
need
cards
sales around, or you need bans around sales to exist as well, because the game needs to flourish. If the game doesn't flourish, the game dies. Hot take, no. The game will die. What do you want me to tell you? If the cards don't sell, people will Konami will stop supporting the game. It needs to be balanced well. You can't have it just be sale oriented. Balance has to matter. If it doesn't matter, then it's also terrible. But if you ignore sales, then the game just dies. There needs to be a game. The games have to make money. Yeah, like, whenever I'm looking at a perspective for any of these takes, you have to look at this as Konami being a profit-driven company. So decisions need to make sense, at least somewhat logically, for profit. And I won't ever suggest things I feel like are just not going to be profitable, like Konami giving 10K prizing away. Their prizing can be alt arts. It can be more designed to be the player base's preference without really changing the cost, besides a couple of R&D uptick that would be only like a one-time cost. But for that would be like a worthwhile payoff for them. Yeah, and like they have to design a new prize card anyways, so like that's like not a problem. Paying, so I don't know, like that's something that I think they should be investing money in, or could, a little bit of money, but needs to be, yeah, this still needs to be very like worth it for them at the same time.
Is a business. I think it's unrealistic to be like they should only do it from a game balance perspective, which is often where we as the community, we're coming from that standpoint. We're like, just do what's best for the balance of the game, right? But sometimes you gotta accept that, well,
so the other thing is, doing what is best for the balance of the game is also what's doing best for the longevity of the game, right? Because if the game is balanced, it encourages more people to play it, more people enjoy it, and then it does better. That is also true. So balance should be a very, very high central focus thing. If the end goal is still that the company makes money so the game can continue, and that's the ecosystem, then both need to matter. But you cannot forsake balance. That should never be forsaken. Because then even if it's some money in the long run, or in the long run, it's bad.
I mean, they do want to sell those cards that they've designed. More fun equals more money. Theoretically, in the long run, I would agree with you. I always favor the balance of the game over short-term selling an archetype or something. On the other hand, they have managed to keep this game around for 20 plus years, right? Which a lot of other trading card games have not managed to do. So they are doing something right. Just look at what happened to Runeterra to understand. See, that's the other thing. Yeah, I actually played Runeterra. I loved Runeterra. They did a lot of things for the balance of the game and for the players and all that kind of stuff. And they made it very cheap and affordable to play. And the game died because of that, because they didn't make enough money, right? There needs to be a balance between the two things.
I think the game,
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more on the side of they're making too many decisions based on business, and they could do a little bit more for the health of the game. Those were just some things I wanted to get out of my system. They are things that are on my mind when I'm thinking and anticipating the August Forbidden and Limited list happening.
So he didn't even say where his line was, or he didn't like map them out. I was curious if he was going to, I guess he did talk about all these decks, but I wonder if you like put on a list together all the one card combo decks and rank them on a line in terms of power and say where you draw the line. That could be a cool idea for like something to do. Maybe that's something we can arrange if we want to have some extra content.